Oh, where to even start?
Where do
So,
we
I mean,
start?
we agreed to talk about a few topics. So I do have this the spreadsheet next to me, so we can kind of take it whichever we want to talk about first. So
Yeah.
obviously we had menstrual cycle in the workplace, sexual harassment, equal pay, maternity leave, and misconceptions. So which one do you want to start with?
I mean, I think menstrual cycle in the workplace, I think that's massive right now because I feel like it is downplayed so much where people just think, oh, she's on a period, it's not a big deal. Um,
Mm.
when women walk around with hot water bottles, you'll get other women sitting there saying, oh, she's one of those. She's one of those with the hot water bottle. And I just don't think that that's nice.
Yeah.
Especially as a woman, if you're experiencing your menstrual cycle or you're going through your menopause, or you've had it previously, how are
Mm.
you going to downplay something that is actually really painful for women? So that's something that I feel it's not nice to do that in the workplace. Well, in any environment, but I've
Yeah.
seen it a lot. I've seen it happen a lot in the workplace.
Yeah, exactly. It's a very much taboo topic still. I've done research on this through my master's degree, and all of the women that I've interviewed, they all said that they just wish they could go to the, bathroom, take out the pad, and not feel ashamed that they're on their period, or not having to conceal their symptoms. And a lot of the times they were even ashamed of asking the female colleagues. So even between female colleagues,
Yeah.
there's a lot of shame that goes on. And I don't it's been ingrained in us, right? Like growing up, we are told to just hide it. No one allows us to say that, okay, I'm having a difficult day, especially for the women that have endometriosis or dysmenorrhea, or all of these women health issues. They are the ones that are suffering, and they cannot even speak up, so they have to suffer in silence.
Yeah, 100%. I remember there was a situation once where, a woman came to me and said, look, I've gone to the toilet because I'm on my menstrual cycle, but because I disappeared from my desk, it was made into such a big deal that she felt almost embarrassed coming back to her desk because everyone's like, oh, where is she gone? Where is she? For her to then almost do the walk of shame, which is it is a huge shame in itself because all she did was just go to the toilet because she's on a menstrual cycle. So I feel like I don't think people are sensitive enough when it comes to menstrual cycle, and I think as one of the comments, just here we go, Nye said that it's mainly women that don't understand this, and you are right, it is mainly women because I feel like sometimes men can be a bit more sensitive with it being like a
Mm.
taboo topic. They feel like, oh, you know what, just I'm better off just not saying anything at all. Like go toilet, do whatever you want to do. But women, I think they're very judgmental.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. And what I've noticed through the research that I've done is when someone has, like, let's say they have endometriosis, right? So they have a lot of pain. The women who don't go through a lot of pain, it's almost like they're saying, oh, well, that's not right. Your pain is actually not this much because I don't have pain. So it's like, it's almost, the research is there. You can see how a lot of women are suffering, yet you as a woman still try to put others down by saying that my pain is not like that. So how can your pain be? It's almost like
Yeah,
this
yeah,
expectation that it's like a competition. You have to match each other's period pains, and that's really sad. We should be more understanding because we already go through so much when it comes to being diagnosed. So
yeah,
women should at least be there to support each other and not be judgmental. If someone is in pain, who are you to question that? How do you know how
yeah,
much pain they're in?
yeah. It is literally downvaluing almost like, the woman and, biology and physiology. Like this is how we're made. It's not something that we choose, like it happens when we're born. It's almost like a given unless obviously there's health issues. But, if it was up to us, do we want to go through this level of pain every single month? No, we don't want to do it. So to
Absolutely
then
not.
have to go to work as well and, you know, go through your day as if nothing's happening, that is a nightmare in itself. And not every menstrual cycle is the same. There's some menstrual cycles where, it can be very painful. There can be some where you're very emotional. And even then, nobody talks about the emotional side of it, you
Mm,
know, the hormones and how hormones play a huge part on how
mm.
we react, how we deal with things, how we make decisions. And then to do that in a workplace, especially when you're having to make decisions or you're having to, you know, put a brave face on, you're having to be professional, it is a really difficult task in itself.
Yeah, I did bring the homework, so I do have some of the research papers that I pulled up. So in a study, 45% of respondents reported menstrual-related absenteeism, averaging 5.8 days in the previous year.
Mm.
So so they are obviously absent because of the pain. That's one thing, but another part is also to be present when you
Yeah,
are in pain. That is even a bigger percentage. And then a lot of the studies also confirm that a lot of workplaces don't offer enough support or resources. So obviously, we're not talking about the women that have regular periods. Even we go through a lot of difficulties, but we're talking about the women that have more irregular ones, or they go through a
yeah,
lot of pain. There's no support. There's no policy set up. There's nothing like if you have a manager, it's almost like you feel embarrassed. What if
yeah.
you stained your pants that day, right? Like you feel so embarrassed to even say anything, but you might have to go home or go to the shop to buy another pair of trousers or knickers or
Yeah.
whatever. That there's like no space for you to be with yourself, with your hormones, with what you're
Yeah,
going through.
yeah, and it's natural. So, you know, I feel like just how we have a first aid kit at work, we should also have a first aid kit for people who are on their menstrual cycle
Mm,
because so many times, you know, I've witnessed like women who, you know, have had like a little accident or, you know, they've started their period early and they find that they've got no sanitary towels on them. And even then you have to pay for the sanitary towels with those little machines that you have in the toilet, and
mm,
then they're the tiniest of, you know, sanitary towels. Like what are we going to do with
yeah,
that? And I just feel like it's almost like, here's the pad, there we go, you know, be on your way. They don't take into account like, right, every woman is different, every flow is different, right, what
mm,
can we do to accommodate this? So I think, you know, in a work environment, I think we definitely need to start looking at, right, how can we incorporate, um, you know, something where people or women in a work environment feel safe to be able to approach their managers, or they feel safe enough to handle the situation without the whole world knowing about it.
yeah, exactly. I've seen very few offices that have period products. So I remember going to job centers, and surprisingly, they did have them.
Yeah.
And this wasn't. I don't remember whether this was in the public ones where the customers could also go in. I think this was more for like the staff room. But I thought that was brilliant because there was like quite a lot of different ones. Sometimes you can find it in gyms. I think maybe some gyms offer it too, but
Yeah.
it's not something that really gets offered. And I think Scotland was the first one that introduced this. So in Scotland, you can actually find free period products in schools, in like public places, which
Yeah.
I think is really good because
Yeah.
period what's the name, period poverty. How
Yeah.
many
Yeah.
women cannot, or girls cannot, afford to buy it? So for
Yeah.
those, we should be able to provide as a country.
Yeah. And then one of the comments there, about being on your period and being in a mood, it almost justifies why we behave in a certain way. But why is it always an excuse? Or, you know, it's like they taunt women.
Mm,
Oh, you're in a mood, you must be on your period. And I think that downplays a woman as well in itself. Sometimes, you know, we can just be in a mood because we fancy being in a mood. It doesn't mean that, you know, we're on our period or anything like that. But I think most workplaces, they should have those supplies.
mm,
Even if we increase the level of, like, you know, the vending machine, instead of it being so limited to one tampon, one sanitary towel, there should be a big vending machine in every work environment where women then have the choice, and they don't feel like, oh no, I have to get to a shop, or the shop's quite far away, or I've had an accident, because then they can get one of their colleagues to perhaps run downstairs or go to the vending machine where they can choose the sanitary towel that's more suitable for them, or even the tampon that's more suitable for them, because it's not one size fits all when it comes to women and their menstrual cycle. So it is a huge shame. So I think that it is important that we need to raise awareness and not feel embarrassed to raise that awareness in the workplace, because yes, people don't listen, but all you need is that one person to hear you and make that change and make the difference.
Yeah. I was just thinking that that's a business idea right
It
there.
is a business idea, yeah.
How
I have
do
been
you
thinking
make
about it, make my millions while selling sanitary towels and tampons.
Yeah, but how can you make it like it's almost like it has to be sort of
A
like
given.
sponsors, because
Yeah.
okay, a lot of women who are working, like I'm not even talking about the big offices, they will probably be able to afford it. We're talking about like places where women are less likely to afford it, so for those maybe you can make it more affordable. But actually there's an influencer that I follow, and she has an activewear brand, but she gives a percentage to schools.
Yeah.
So I think that's really amazing. Like if you have a brand already, and like it's sort of like a charity, right? You can probably write it off from your taxes, and you give it to schools. So same same idea here. If you have the period products, let's say in a vending machine, you can make it a fair price for the ones that work, but that means they are helping the ones that need it more, right? The ones that are going through period poverty. So
yeah, and
that's
from a
right there.
business perspective as well, I know it sounds like, okay, well, these businesses can't be giving sanitary towels out for free, but you're constantly, as a business, you're constantly always having to promote and market your product. So why not start with the younger generation and show them, like, look, these are the products that we offer, this is how great they are, and then it kind of promotes longevity with them, because then it's what they used to, they know it works. So as they get older, this is the brand, this is the type that they use moving forward. So it does have its positives as well, but I just feel like it's just brushed aside like it's nothing and it doesn't mean anything. You're right, they should be free. They should be free. In around the world, we should have sanitary towels, tampons, they're not for free. Because like you said earlier on about the menstrual cycle poverty, it is a thing. Not everyone can afford to buy them. And I think sometimes we assume that, oh yeah, everyone can afford, but their prices are going up. That's something that's still an expenditure that we're spending every single month just to maintain ourselves. So I think, yeah, ideally, if you want to fight for freedom, free pads in the workplace.
Yeah, but that was actually a really good idea what you said, that the companies should promote it. And also, again, for businesses, it's the same as buying toilet paper, really. Like it's not it's another expense you add, but you actually help the ones that get it unexpectedly, or they are suffering, right? Because that means they now don't have to go out to a store, they don't have to go home, they have it there, so they are calm, thinking that okay, it's there, I can just access it.
Yeah, definitely.
One second, how do you see the comments? I don't
Oh,
see any comments.
because these will be the people that are watching my live, so they'll be commenting.
That's weird. Why are we not getting the same comments?
No.
Oh.
No.
So are they not seeing us both?
They can see us both. Yeah, they can
Okay.
see us both, but I'll just be able to see these comments, and then you'll see your comments on your end.
No one commented on mine except hi, so. Anyways,
Moving on.
moving on.
Moving on. Should we talk about the next topic? That's my favorite topic to talk about.
You mean the which
Sexual
one?
harassment in the workplace.
Yeah, I mean, again, I have the receipts, so
Yeah.
I can back you up.
You do. You have the receipts. Sexual harassment in the workplace. I mean, I'm really passionate about this because even just from a HR perspective, all it takes is one form of sexual harassment or harassment, and that is classed as harassment in the workplace. But so many people are not aware of this, especially women, that it just takes one account, just one account. It can be something minuscule, but it's enough to make you feel uncomfortable. That is right. That is sexual harassment or harassment in the workplace. So I feel like, I don't know about you, Paroshka, but I feel like sexual harassment in the workplace is brushed under the carpet quite a fair bit. What are your thoughts?
Yeah, definitely. It's there's a lot of research on why it's not really raised, and there's no really clear procedure in many workplaces on how to even raise it. There's a lot of shame, and I think because of the way the world is at the moment, it's usually the victim gets shamed.
Yeah.
So that's why it's so difficult to raise this, because one, it's not really encouraged that, okay, you're experiencing this is how you can raise it. But there's also a lot of shame for the victim or for someone who's trying to raise it when they do. I'm trying to see if there's anything that stands out.
What do you think the psychology is behind staying quiet? Because obviously a lot of women, when they are sexually harassed in a workplace, they don't feel brave enough, they don't feel safe enough to be able to raise it. So what would make you think, what is the psychology behind why women stay quiet in the workplace when they've experienced some form of sexual harassment?
So the main thing I would say is because of shame, right? It's kind of like an upbringing problem, really, in the whole world. We are being told that we should just stay quiet, and whatever happens, just don't make a fuss out of it, don't be emotional, all these things. Obviously, this will vary women to women because some of us are more outspoken than others. But the main thing is that you are afraid of the consequences. If you raise this, what is going to happen? Not everyone can afford to lose their jobs. And unfortunately, there were a lot of cases where, a woman raised it or a man raised it, whoever it happened to, and they lost their job. So it's also like the consequences. Not everyone can afford to lose their job. Pair that with the shame, with, not having a clear procedure, and it's easier to be silent than to be outspoken. So I would say that's the main reason psychologically.
Why do you think that the higher ups or the people at the top who have to deal with this complaint, why do you think they feel it's better to brush it under the carpet than to actually raise it and address it and take it further? Why? Because I find that so much. I find that so many senior members of staff, when it's raised with them, instead of addressing the matter, they tend to just brush it under the carpet. Why do they do that from a psychological perspective?
So see, this one I don't think is psychological. I think it's more legal, because it takes a lot of time, right? You have to analyze it. You have to be very objective. I've heard before that whenever there was like a workplace issue, I know that immediate colleagues cannot say anything about it. You have to bring in someone who's completely from outside. So I think this is more of a case of they don't know what is going to happen to the company if they start to investigate it. It takes a lot of time. Probably people don't already have time, right? Because this stands with HR. HR is already very busy, and they are probably not even trained to do this. And then again, if there's no clear procedure from the person who founded the company of what you can do to support the people who are going through, then everyone below that, they won't know how to raise it and how to handle it. Of course, there are companies that support it and that have gone through like a successful trial of this happening.
Yeah.
But in majority of them probably just can't be bothered, as bad as it sounds. That's why a lot of these grievances don't get resolved, because people just can't be bothered.
Yeah. I think another thing that I've noticed is the reason why a lot of these managers won't raise it is because it makes them look incompetent, because it makes them look like they're not running the show. and they're missing a lot of things. And the moment it comes out, someone who's higher up than the manager will then ask them, right, hold on a second, why is this happening in your office? Why have you not acknowledged this before? Especially if it's like past cases that are now surfacing, then it's going to make them look incompetent. It's going to make it seem like, hold on a second, you don't know what you're doing, you're not fit for the role, because you've allowed it to escalate and get out of hand, where we're now having women or all men complaining about some form of sexual harassment in the workplace. It means that you're not recruiting the right people, you're not training the right people, you're also not setting the expectations correctly, the boundaries are not being set, and also, you know, the HR policies are not being displayed and reiterated to them. So there's so many different aspects that fall into place when these sort of sexual harassment claims are surfaced. So that's one of the things that I have noticed.
Yeah, yeah, and actually, research backs that. Employees may hold unspoken beliefs, such as managers do not want criticism, or speaking up will make me look incompetent, and it is not my place to challenge someone senior. So these beliefs are embedded in the workplace culture, and obviously, this is the whole question of why is the psychology behind staying quiet. And that's the psychology, really. It's you're withholding information to protect yourself because it is uncomfortable, right? It is uncomfortable to be the victim, to be the witness. Maybe not so much for the perpetrator, because ultimately nothing happens to them if these things are not raised. But there's just a lot of shame, and when people are already going through something personal, it takes a lot of effort as well.
Yeah.
But I think the solution is just to have a clear process of how you can raise it. We shouldn't keep letting it just happen. It's not okay. It's ruining lives. We've seen it countless times. It either ruins lives or it can end up in even murder. I'm sorry, I don't know if we're allowed to say these words on live.
No, but it's the reality, isn't it? It is the reality where, you know, it turns into like stalking, obsession, and so then, you know, it's got to be raised. But I think the issue that a lot of organizations have is the moment somebody experiences some sort of sexual harassment, they will instantly go to their manager, which is the middleman, the middle person. Depending on who that manager is and their work ethic, it will determine whether or not that's going to be handled correctly or not.
Yeah.
Because it could be a manager who says, oh, it's fine, I'll have a chat with them, I'll mediate the situation, we'll brush it under the carpet. Or you could have a manager who's very passionate about what they do and safeguard their staff, and are like, right, hold on a second, I'm not going to deal with this, it's going to go straight to HR.
Yeah.
A lot of people, a lot of women and men, they need to know the process to cut out the middle person and go straight to HR. Because once it goes straight to HR, that's it. They'll be given the options of, right, mediation, formal grievance or informal grievance. And that then allows them to investigate it properly, and fingers crossed, hoping that the HR people aren't bent as well, and that they actually then they tackle it, you know, with the right mindset, not the mindset of, right, how's this going to impact me? How's this going to affect me? Is it going to affect my job? It's almost quite selfish, isn't it?
Yeah, but when I think about it from like an organizational psychology perspective, the clearest picture is that we don't get training. People don't get training of this. When you look at joining any company, how much can you even remember now of sexual harassment and how you can report it? Because I cannot even name what is the current procedure at the company I work at. It's not something that we pay attention to, and when you want to research it, it's not easily accessible. So that's the number one thing. And then, like you said, when it reaches HR, what are their training? What are they taught to do? Because we know that HR is supposed to stand with the company, right? Their first instinct is to protect the company. So again, it depends on what kind of training they got of how they are going to handle this. Because sometimes it can turn into a legal battle, and of course it can ruin the company's reputation. But the sad thing is that you care more about the reputation than you care about people's lives. that can potentially end up in a very poor situation.
Yeah, definitely. And I think as well, when it goes down the legal route, it's difficult because it's right, how do we prove this? What witnesses do I have? And because it's a work environment, it's so difficult to have witnesses come forward knowing full well that it could affect their job. It could, it could cause, them to be penalized. So I think it's really, really difficult nowadays to go down the legal route without any witnesses, because sometimes when this sexual harassment happens, something that I've noticed, I don't know about yourself, Proshka, but some of the men work, like the male work colleagues, will witness it, but they stay quiet and they don't actually raise anything. That's something that I have noticed, because they speak like really derogatory towards women. They sexualize women. They think it's a joke to just, just make fun of women and their anatomy and how they're built. And I think it's really horrible because they do it collectively. And then if it is raised, what's being done about it? Because nobody will talk. And yes, you're right. Now, they say it's banter, but banter shouldn't be where, you're actually upsetting people around you, or, you're saying stuff that's harming somebody's mental health. That is when it needs to be drawn a line. There needs to be a line drawn there, especially have those boundaries to make sure that you're not upsetting people in the environment. So why do you think, Paroshka, from a psychology perspective, why do men
they don't speak up?
Why don't they speak up about it?
So, I've just Googled this, but I do remember researching it from another, in another sector, not in offices. But the main reason why they tend to stay silent is social stigma, fear of professional or personal backlash. So fear of ridicule. Male victims often worry that they will not be okay. So this is from a man's perspective if they are sexually harassed.
Yeah.
I think I misunderstood my question. But when I was doing, so I did some newsletters on policing, and that was there was a section of why is it that they don't speak up when some things happen, and it's because because of superiors. So it can happen. You're not safe. You don't feel safe to raise it because, again, the stigma, right? Your colleagues, what are they going to think about it? Which honestly makes no sense.
No.
Why do you care about what your colleagues think when you are there and you see that person being harassed, or even you can see the behavior, and instead of calling it out, you as a man, right? You should call it out, because they're not going to listen to women, unfortunately. So it just makes no sense in many cases why they don't speak up. It's like that bystanders, right? Like when you see something happening and you're kind of just stuck in the moment, and it's usually women who are going to call it out quicker than men, but it's men who should start to call it out. So it's mainly the stigma. I think it's mainly the fear of maybe losing the job, or just not. We are social, right? Humans are social. We want to be part of a community. So they fear that after they speak up, they will be excluded. And these things are very much psychological, but I think they are bad. And we are not giving the right training. We're not giving the right education to men, and obviously women as well. But especially in this case, they are not getting the right education on how to speak up and how to support their female colleagues.
Yeah, because, sometimes when you raise something, there is that fear in your mind that you might be, penalized, or you might be bullied on the back of that, isolated in the workplace because you didn't address it directly with the person, and instead you went through, the correct processes, and that can leave you feeling very vulnerable in a work environment. And that's something that I have seen quite often, where the person who raises it, even if they're not the victim or they're the bystander, and they feel strong and confident enough to raise it, they're almost, what's that word I'm looking for? Punished They're
Mm.
punished for doing the right thing, and it almost makes sense now why other people won't do it, because they like, you know what, actually it's not worth the hassle. So now we're in a situation where instead of doing the right thing, it's better to just stay quiet instead of raising anything.
Yeah, exactly. But I mean, whenever I try to find the root cause of these things, for me personally, if you create the space for this to be raised,
Yeah.
then there won't be any bystanders because they will be like, okay, I saw this happening. As long as that person doesn't support the harassment, then they are going to know that this is where I have to go and raise it. So ultimately, when someone joins a company, they should
Yeah.
have a clear like training material or
Yeah.
training book of how I can do this if I see this. Because of course we have about phishing, right? Everyone knows if you get a random email, you raise it with IT. But if you hear something in the workplace or you see one of your female colleagues being harassed, what do you do? How is it that you raise phishing quicker than you raise someone being harassed in the office or verbally abused? It makes no
Yeah.
sense. It really makes no sense.
I think,
I would love to have like a
you're,
mail.
you are right. And the
Yeah.
only thing I can see between the two is a phishing email can really, really affect the running of a company to the extent where it can completely shut it down. Whereas a woman being harassed or a male being harassed in the workplace, it doesn't have that much of a, an important sort of effect on the business. And it's almost like they prioritize what could damage the company more,
Yeah.
which is horrible to say, but it's the only thing that I can think of
Yeah.
why they don't prioritize that, and they prioritize a phishing email over sexual harassment.
Yeah, but you don't have to do it in public. These because there's so many things that go on in the workplace that we don't even know about.
Yeah.
You know, if you're in a big company, you don't know what's happening in XYZ office. You have no idea about it because the people are being asked to keep it silent. So it's unless it's like something that gets reported or gets put out in public or on social media, no one would actually know what's going on. So again, it really doesn't make sense. And I would really love to understand from like an HR perspective, why is it that we don't have clear procedures in 2026? We are living in a first world country in
Yeah.
UK, and we don't have a clear procedure of how to report it. And we still hear women going through this over and over again in our personal lives and in our colleagues. It's just, yeah, it's not
Yeah,
acceptable.
it can. I mean, if we know anybody who's in HR, it would be great to understand what is going on. I mean, I've got someone say because it's a tick box exercise, just enough to cover the company, which, yeah, you get e-learning. Nobody concentrates. It's very few people that will concentrate when doing e-learning. It's almost like, right, how quick can we get through it? Or can we skip the video enough to go straight to the quiz at the end? So no one's absorbing any of that information. And yeah, you're right, who actually reads the documents? No one does. And that's why they're not aware. And I think from the company's perspective, they've covered their back, they've put out e-learning, so that's enough.
Yeah.
But why are we not doing workshops? Why are we not, promoting this, sending out leaflets, sending out newsletters, sending out, just documents, just anything, posters, support groups, because there's external support groups, charities, signposting them. Why are companies not doing it? Because it doesn't feel like it's important enough to raise.
Yeah. Yeah, unfortunately, that seems like the case. I can't say I have worked in offices here or in another country that
Yeah.
it was a clear procedure on how to do it. And it happens in every sector. So it's not just in offices, it happens in healthcare and education, any sector really. But I don't know, another business idea for someone to start going around and offering
Yeah,
workshops,
workshops.
right?
We can do workshops where we're explaining what sexual harassment is, what the process is, how to report it, external companies that we can signpost them to. I think that would be a good business opportunity for us right there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So it kind of feeds into also the psychological safety aspect of it. So I have a point here. So, according to a research on bystander responses, workplace harassment shows that observers' responses are influenced by the type of behavior, workplace culture, perceived status of the people involved, and whether intervention appears safe. So, it kind of does come down to psychological safety, because if someone doesn't feel safe enough to speak up, then they won't do it, whether they're a man or a woman. So,
Yeah.
it if you solve that aspect in the company, people are psychologically safe to speak up about anything, then you solve this problem as well.
And that goes back to organizational dynamics as well, making sure that there's the correct processes in place, to be able to avoid, your employees feeling fearful, to be able to even raise concerns like this. And then when you let the perpetrator continue to make these mistakes and create this harassment in a workplace and no one actually stops them, I don't know what the statistics are to show what they then, grow into in the future. It's like, are we enabling these people and then creating future rapists, future murderers? Like, because no one's stopping it. And the moment they feel like, right, okay, I'm getting away with it, what do they then move on to?
Exactly.
To get that next fix or to get that next buzz, whatever feeling they're getting from behaving in this way, what level have you just leveled them up to?
That's a really good point. And we see that happen, not in workplace, but in the world.
Yeah.
When someone just gets away. And I was listening to this podcast from a crime analyst. That's the name of the podcast, Crime Analyst, by Laura Richards. And there was this man who was a serial murderer, and he got away for like 11 years because police was not putting the files together. And obviously this happened in the 1980s. So, but still, even to this day, she says that there's no clear procedure of reporting. Like when they get reported, they don't appear immediately on the offenders list, right? Like they don't have a file almost. And because of that, they get away for so long, and they get more bold, and they allow themselves to do more. So I think he ended up murdering like almost 20 women in a span of over 11 years. And when they put together the images of the, when you do the image, like I don't know what's it called, the terms, when a woman goes to a police station.
When they're lining up and then you look.
The profiling. I think it's called profiling. So when they put together all the images across the years, you could literally see that man who was interviewed 11 times by the police was the man who was committing the murders. And these, I don't want to call them names, but they just couldn't figure it out. So same thing in the workplace. You are letting someone get away with it who is so ingrained in the company. It keeps happening. And at some point, something bad happens. So like, we had that case, was it Sarah Everard? That was a workplace harassment.
Yeah.
She died. So
that's the severity of it. I think that, when people get away with it in the workplace and, say HR do investigate and they look into it, and in the end, they feel like actually the best thing is to dismiss the person under, the basis of what they've, done. I feel like that should be reported to the police.
Yeah.
It should be, because if it's a sexual harassment case, technically it's been dealt with in-house, but if that was dealt with through the police, they would be on the sex offenders list. But they get away with it. So I feel like we need to be a bit more strict and tighten down on it, that these people, the offenders, will think twice about even sending a Teams message to somebody, never mind going over to somebody and trying to sniff them or trying to touch them inappropriately, anything that oversteps the boundaries.
Yeah, I think Teams messages or Slack, whichever companies use, they should be monitored more, because I'm sure there's like some crazy things happening there.
Yeah, of course. And then even just being able to pull those chats, it is a process in itself. So I feel like because they're not easily accessible,
Yeah.
some senior management probably just think, oh, I can't be bothered.
Yeah.
It's going to be a long process. I'd rather just investigate it based on witnesses or, what the victim is saying. But then there's no witnesses, and then it's just all based on, right, what did the victim say? Oh, sorry, there's no witnesses. It's not enough. It's not going to stand. And then it just goes, under the carpet as usual.
Yeah, exactly. Big
What
topic.
are we going to do, Parashka? We're going to have to change the world. We are going to change the world.
One company at a time.
That's it, literally. Okay.
Do another topic.
Do you want to do the red flags or normal?
Mm-hmm. So
What do
I
you
did
reckon?
put the what was it? Was it the myth?
Yeah, myths versus facts.
So working harder always leads to promotion.
I think that is a myth. I don't think that's true. I don't think you need to work hard to be promoted. I mean, it helps, but I wouldn't advise everybody, oh, work hard, you're going to get promoted, because it's not 100%. It's not gospel, because some people can make their way to the top just by knowing the right people,
Yeah.
or just based on, I can't say use the term, but when they are slick, that's how you can get to the top. But then saying that, you can also get to the top just based on whether or not you've got leadership qualities. You could have somebody who's not so good at the job, but they're great at being a leader, because you don't necessarily have to be good at the job. You know the processes, but can you enforce those processes? That's what makes a great leader. So I definitely think it's a myth.
Yeah, I think there's two parts to it. So we have the employees that work hard and they end up getting promoted.
Yeah.
But high performance don't automatically mean good leaders. And then there's the second part, the one that you mentioned, is you don't necessarily have to work hard in terms of performance. It's all about connecting, being able to know the right people that can get you to that level. Because I'm sure we've all experienced knowing a manager or a senior leader who is absolutely doing nothing, and they are being promoted over and over again, and the whole team, the whole company knows that they're not doing anything, but it's
Yeah.
because they know the right people.
They know the right people, and
They say the right things based on
Yeah.
corporate standards, and they just got promoted. So
Yeah.
I always think that we should never ever give 100% of ourselves at a job, because when you give 100% and you are on 20%, they're still going to expect 100% from you.
100%.
That might be bad advice, but
we,
my
I know how you're
experience.
feeling today. It's fine.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think you are right, because sometimes when you give a full 100% in a work environment, you can be taken advantage of, because once you give, they constantly want it. You literally, oh, you can do this, okay, I'll have this. Oh, you can do that, okay, oh, do this for me. And sometimes you can become so overworked because you did it one time, but consistently doing and repeating the same task over and over again will lead to burnout. And that's when you're just like, right, I can't do this anymore. And then it affects the employees, it affects the team morale. And it can almost build a really toxic environment in the workplace. So that is poor management, when you over expect stuff from your staff, knowing full well that yes, okay, the work's being done, but would we be better off if we actually looked at employing people? So spending some extra money from the budget, so we've got two people doing the job instead of one person, which then can have a ripple effect and cause a really toxic environment.
Yep. So there's another myth: good employees don't complain.
Oh, I think that's
So if you say that's not true, would you then say you are not a good employee?
no, because I think it's a fact. I think good employees don't complain.
But what's counted as a good employee?
Me.
You do complain though.
I do complain. I take it back. It's a myth.
Yeah, I think so.
It
It
definitely.
says speaking up can improve organizational learning and safety, and silence can allow problems to continue. So it all
Yeah.
comes down to psychological safety.
Yeah. I think the reason why I said it's a fact as opposed to a myth, it's because a good employee is usually invested in the company and they want to make a difference. They want to see the company progress. And when they see something wrong, instead of complaining, what they do is they raise awareness.
Yeah.
You know, they'll go to the relevant person and say, right, it looks like this process it's not helping, it's not benefiting the company right now, but I think actually we should do it this way.
Mm.
But then the complaining starts when if you go to the wrong person and you say, right, the process is wrong, then you make them look incompetent and they shut your idea down, that's when it will turn into complaining. So it has a knock-on effect. You know,
Yeah.
you can do it the right way, but if you're not heard or you're not listened to or you're not regarded as, you know, a priority or like it's important to change, then it can have another ripple effect where it leads to complaining.
Yeah. Yeah, you're right, actually, because it doesn't start out a lot of the times as a complaint. And I think even the employees, like let's say you're new to a company and you have someone who's been there for 5 years and they are complaining. I bet anything that there was a point when they started raising questions and concerns and they were not listened to.
Yeah.
And then that turned into complaint. Like if they decided to stay, that's their own problem. But I don't think anyone really starts to complain, right? It's mainly they tell you that, oh, this is not right, but then when they're not listened to, then those turn into complaints. So it can happen to both good and bad employees.
100%.
Then do you think is it a myth or not? If I say no, people won't like me, especially when it comes to women.
I think it's a fact. I think it's a fact. If you say no in the workplace, you will make enemies.
Yeah.
People will dislike you. You will become isolated because you're going against the grain and you're doing something that is from a minority perspective as opposed to a majority, I'm assuming. Even if you're asked to do a task and you say no, you'll come across as lazy or you'll come across as you don't care enough, you're not invested in the company, you're not motivated, you're not productive. And chances are the person asking you to do the task could be a case that it's because they don't want to do it themselves.
Yep. Delegation.
Yes, delegation at its worst.
Yeah. Yeah, it's so for women especially, they can face likability penalty for being assertive. So boundaries should be supported structurally rather than treated as a personality flaw. And I think it again comes down to what we are taught in schools. We are taught to say yes. I feel like, especially as women, we are just taught to say yes to everything. So when we start to say no, people automatically are like, oh, she's being rude.
Yeah.
No, like there's only so much you can do in a day at work, whether it's at work or at home, where you're not going to crumble. So you have to learn how to say no. But when it comes from us, it's assertive. When it comes from a man, then it's usually, oh, he knows his boundaries. So
he's a high achiever. He knows what he wants. He's logical thinking. He's going to make the company go, you know, above and beyond. But when it's a woman, it's almost like if she's assertive, it could also come across as aggression.
yeah.
Oh, she's too aggressive.
Yeah.
I've seen it so much.
It matters how you say it, right? Like we shouldn't obviously say it in an aggressive way, but even when you don't, some people still take it. So yeah. Should we do more of these or?
What have we got?
There was one more suggested.
Oh, the one, women are too emotional to lead. That is a fact. No. It's not a fact, as
It's a
in, it's
myth.
basically that's what people think in the workplace.
Yeah.
It's a myth, but it is something that I know a lot of people in the work environment, in any environment where they need a management team or a leadership team. Even now in 2026, you look at the majority of the people sat around that board table and they are majority all men.
Mm.
They are majority all men because women are too emotional to make decisions. They're too, biologically, they're not fit enough for the job because they could potentially go on maternity leave, or they might be on their menstrual cycle, or they're too sensitive and they don't get the male banter that goes on in those meeting rooms. I think it's not nice, but I feel like it is something that happens so much, and you can see because the receipts are there when you
Yeah.
look at a management team. A majority of work environments, they are all men.
But when you see, when you are in an environment where there's men and women leadership, sometimes the women tend to be a lot better and more proactive than the men. And
Yeah,
I'm sure we have examples of when this happened, but we cannot talk about it.
yeah,
And I was gonna say about the maternity one. I've actually seen a post on LinkedIn where a founder said that they had an interview with someone who was, I think it was, they were like pregnant already,
yeah.
and they still got hired, even though everyone said to the founder you shouldn't hire them. But because they hired them and they went on maternity, but when they came back, they were like set up, they were so fired up, so passionate because they got given the chance. And a lot of the times that's just basic psychology, especially for women. Like if you give them a chance and you show them that I believe in you, they will go above and beyond. So
Yeah.
yeah, I don't think women are too emotional to lead. If anything, we are empathetic, and that's what a lot of workplaces are missing.
Yeah, 100%. Because with women, yes, we have our emotions, but we know how to compartmentalize them, and we know how to use them in different scenarios and adapt. So, can you imagine having all these emotions, but then also being logical as well, also having structure, also being a motivational, coaching, mentoring, guiding, everything
Yeah.
all in one? Why would you not have that
and
why would you
and
not have that
sometimes doing
ability
it
to
on
do
your
that?
period as well.
Yeah,
And every month you
exactly.
do it when you're in pain and you still show up.
Yeah, 100%.
So
100%.
myth.
Yeah, myth.
All right. Do you want to keep going on, or should we end this here? And
We can do, yeah, we can do. I mean, any sort of questions from anybody about, women in the workplace?
I
We
don't see
can,
anything on my side. I can
right,
see
I'll read
people
it out.
joining.
Yeah,
There's no comments. Can anyone just leave a comment on my side? Because I'm curious. I don't know if I cannot see them, or is it that
yeah,
no one is leaving the comments?
yeah. There's probably no comments on your side, but we'll see. We'll wait a couple of seconds. Have you had to deal with anything that wasn't received? I think in the work environment, this is really common. There have been incidents where, I've had to raise something, and as passionate as I am about it and making sure that women are safe in the workplace, there isn't any sexual harassment. There has been a time where I have raised it and it hasn't been received, and it has been brushed under the carpet to the extent where the victims felt like they no longer felt safe in the office. And no matter how much you try and fight a cause, it can be so difficult when you're going up against multiple people, and it can be very draining as well. Like sometimes, like, you can fight a cause, you can start a movement, do whatever you have to do, but the people at the top, they're almost interlocked like a chain, and you trying to break through that it can be really, really mentally draining. So yeah, I have, and I've tried my best. But what I found was the only advice I could give to the victims was to remove themselves from the situation, because no, they weren't safe. They weren't safe in that environment.
Yeah, that is so hard, right? When you want to do the right thing, but it does leave you emotionally fatigued to keep going on, especially when no one is receiving that message. And that was one of the issues, like within the research, is that it can have a lot of mental health effects on anyone that's trying to raise a
Yeah.
problem and it's not being received. So it is sad that at some point people give up, because there's only so much you can endure as a person when every day you are going there and people are almost punishing you for saying the right thing.
Yeah, and you are being punished for it. Would you encourage a change for your organization? I think, yeah, definitely. If you feel like there is a gap there and you feel like, there needs to be more processes or policies in place to make it better, and it's going to safeguard a lot of people within the environment, then I definitely think that you should raise that awareness and find your platform where people are receiving that information, and then encourage that change. It's not going to be easy. It's not going to be something that, you're going to do overnight, because you get those, pessimists who are like, oh no, she's off again. But, oh, hold on.
What happened?
Oh, it just said that your live is ending in 5 minutes. And then
Oh,
it's giving me a puzzle to do to stay on it. Okay, so yeah, it's definitely I encourage anybody who feels like they can make a difference to try, but also gather people around you. If you've got a network of people that are helping you and supporting the same cause, it can make it a lot more easier. But if you go at it on your own, it can be really mentally draining. So just take that on board first before you do anything.
yeah, and what I would add to that is gather proof, because if you just go based on what someone said, unfortunately that's not accepted a lot of times. But if you put together like a document, and
Yeah.
let's say you have people that are backing you and supporting you, but you also have proof of why XYZ needs to change,
Yeah.
then management is most likely going to accept it. Because the last thing you want is to go to your team leader or manager and complain about something, but you're not offering a solution. But if you have the solution, you should raise it. But you have to have some sort of proof of why this is needed.
Yeah, 100%. Perfect. Any other questions before my live just drops off? I already got a notification saying, oh, it's going to finish in 5 minutes. So I think you can only do
Oh,
an
that's because
hour.
I don't have that. No, I'm not being given that.
No?
But then
Mine.
I invited you to this one, so maybe.
It might be that. But anyway, we're going to be doing this every Monday. It's called Mindful Mondays. We do have like a little board that we want to put up on the screen, but for some reason it didn't work out today.
We're gonna
But
figure it out next time.
we're going to figure it out. So Mindful Mondays will have new, different topics that we can talk about. It's not just going to be women in the workplace. It can be anything. So yes, we're really looking forward to tuning in every Monday at 7:30.
Yes, UK time.
Yeah, UK time.
So I think right now that's BST, British summertime. Yeah.
Yeah, perfect.
Amazing.
Thank you, Roshka. It was a pleasure.
This was like a therapy session as well. So
Yeah, definitely. Always is with me and you.
yeah. All right then. Thank you, everyone, for joining.
Thank you. See you later.
Bye.
Bye.